demand for oil surges and the Canadians' increased production, the addition of the Keystone Pipeline would allow us to get reliable and secure oil from our largest trading partner and trusted ally. Unfortunately, President Obama has punted on every opportunity we have given him to move Keystone forward. Thank you. I appreciate it and note the absence of a quorum.
Would the gentleman
withhold
because...
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Mr. President.
The Senator from California.
Tell us what the order is at this time.
I don't have anything. And morning business is closed, ma'am. I'm sorry. And under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of Senate Bill 1813, which the clerk will report.
Calendar number 311, S. 1813, a bill to reauthorize federal aid highway and highway safety construction programs and for other purposes.
Mr. President, we are back on...
Ma'am, I'm sorry,
yes,
if I may. Under the previous order, the time until 12 noon will be equally divided and controlled between the two sides, with the final 10 minutes equally divided and controlled between the two leaders of their designees, with the majority leader controlling the final 5 minutes. Senator from California.
Mr. President, thank you so very much. And we are back here on our 4th week trying to get a transportation bill through this body. And to me, it is a very sad statement about the dysfunction of this body that we spent approximately 3 weeks dithering here over a contraception amendment that had nothing to do with the highway bill and other threats to offer foreign policy amendments and so on. Well, Mr. President, we have a chance today to vote to end this dithering. And the Chamber of Commerce is asking us to do that. The AFL-CIO is asking us to do that. 1,000 organizations are asking us to do that because they know that thousands of businesses and well over 1 million jobs are at stake. Now, I wanted to say that I heard the tail end of Senator Boozman's talk about the Keystone Pipeline. I wanted to make sure that it was on the record, a conversation that I had with Senator Durbin, that under this president, we're drilling now more than we've ever drilled before. So anyone who says drill, baby, drill, doesn't understand that the number of rigs that are now moving are 4 times as many as in 2008. They don't understand that we are now exporting oil. They don't understand the fact that we are importing less. Does that mean we're done? No. The oil companies have more than 50 million acres of approved leases. They ought to drill there and hands off my coast, because my coast is an economic gold mine the way it is because we have tourism and recreation and fishing, and those jobs far outweigh any jobs that would come from oil drilling, which would, tend to undermine the very economy of my great state. So if we have to vote on Keystone, we'll vote on Keystone. If we have to vote on offshore drilling, we will. But I will be here to point out that if we care about jobs, and we care about making sure the price of gasoline goes down. And when we have Keystone, let's make sure the oil stays here. Let's make sure that oil is made in America and stays in America. And so these issues are not one-dimensional. They're many-sided, as my friend knows. And he and I have agreed on much, and we've disagreed on some. And the fact is, what we need is the kind of balance that President Obama brings to the table when it comes to energy. He says, we will do all of the above, but we will do it wisely. And interestingly, on the Keystone Pipeline, we now have the Tea Party talking about property rights and the fact that they have to be respected as well when we build a new pipeline such as this. So we'll have votes. But can I make a plea to my colleagues? At noon, it's just about 50 minutes away from now, we can have a clean vote. 60 of us could vote to move to this transportation bill, to get rid of, as my friend Olympia Snowe has said, polarizing amendments. Why not move to something that was voted out unanimously out of our committee? 18-0 was the vote. Republicans, Democrats, all together, Senator Inhofe and myself, together, Senator Shelby and Senator Johnson together on a bill, Senator Baucus working in a bipartisan way with his committee, and Senator Rockefeller, once they got rid of some bumps, working in a cooperative way with Senator Hutchison. We now have pending an agreed-upon bill. Plus, we've added to the package, is it 29 amendments or 39? 37 amendments, bipartisan amendments. What more do my friends want? We've got a bipartisan bill. We've added more bipartisan amendments to it. All these jobs are at stake, and today we can end all this dithering and wasting time. The people of America look at us and wonder what we're about. Vote yes for cloture. So I want to talk about what's at stake if we don't invoke cloture and we don't wind up with a bill. Because this isn't just hyperbole, Mr. President. These are facts that are fact-checked. All of our transportation programs expire on March 31st. And my friend who's in the chair, the President, served as a great governor of his state of West Virginia, and he knows how important the highway bill is. We work together with the states, we work together with the planning organizations, and we get those funds out there. On March 31st, I say to my friend, we're done. This bill reauthorizes that program, and 1.8 million jobs are at stake. And as soon as we fail, there's no more program. There's no more authority to collect the federal gas tax that supports the highway program. There's no more authority to spend any money on transportation. 1.8 million jobs are at stake. Let's go to the next chart. I did a breakdown of the various states, Mr. President, and in this time I'm going to highlight just a few of the states, but these charts will be available for everyone. What are we talking about? In Alabama, we're talking about almost 27,000 jobs. In Alaska, 18,000 jobs. I'm just skipping around. In my state, 164,000 jobs. That's California. In Florida, 76,000 jobs. Right here in D.C., 18,000 jobs. In Georgia, almost 50,000. In Illinois, 65,000. In Indiana, 34,000. In Iowa, 17,000. In Louisiana, 25,000. In Maine, almost 7,000. And we'll go on and give you the rest of the states just to give you a sense of how many jobs will be lost if we do not act to reauthorize this bill. In Maryland, 26,000. In Massachusetts, 31,000. In Michigan, 39,000. In Montana, almost 14,000. In Nebraska, 10,000. Nevada, almost 14,000 jobs. In New Jersey, 50,000. In New York, 118,000. In North Dakota, 8,000. In Ohio, 50,000. In Oklahoma, 22,000. In Pennsylvania, 68,000. In Rhode Island, 8,000. I'll continue with another chart to show you other examples, and I will be sure to say what West Virginia is when I get to the W's here. In South Carolina, 22,000. In South Dakota, 9,000. In Tennessee, 30,000. In Texas, Mr. President, 128,000 jobs. I call on senators to vote yes to stop debate and get to this bill. Vermont, almost 7,000. Virginia, 41,000. Washington State, 34,000. West Virginia, 15,133. Wisconsin, 27,000. Wyoming, 8,400 jobs. So when we talk about this as a jobs bill, this isn't some exercise in our verbiage. This is a fact of life. These are the jobs, and they add up to 1.8 million. Now, I also want to make a point. In our bipartisan bill, we have increased a particular program. Now, this is a reform bill, and we've taken 90 programs down to 30. It's a real reform bill. We've done away with every earmark. But one particular program we increased is the TIFIA program, Transportation Infrastructure Financing. And we took it up to $1 billion because it leverages federal dollars, Mr. President, 30 times. So let's say one of your counties voted to tax themselves a half a cent to build a transit system. We would come in the federal government, you make an application from your state, we would front that money. So you could build it all in 1 or 2 years instead of waiting for the funding over 10. This was an idea that came from Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and the Chamber of Commerce and the labor unions in Los Angeles. So bottom line here is, not only are we saving 1.8 million jobs, but, Mr. President, we have the potential of creating another 1 million jobs. So if we fail today to cut off debate, and we don't have a path forward, which I hope, the leaders will figure out, if we abandon this, 2.8 million jobs are at stake. Let's look at some other charts of unemployment. Mr. President, you know as well as anyone in your state, and I know in my state, that construction workers have been hit very, very hard. The national unemployment rate is 8.3%. We're very hopeful it's on the downtick. But the construction industry rate is 17.7%. It could be even worse in some areas. This is an average. So we're talking about here, if we add to the unemployment in the construction industry, we're looking at a total crisis, a total disaster. Because right now we have 1.48 million construction workers out of work. And if we fail to do this bill, we're adding another 1.8 million. You could say this would be a depression for the construction workers. And it doesn't stop there. The industry is feeling it. The businesses are feeling it. And we have a chart that talks about the thousands of businesses. I don't know if you're aware of this, Mr. President, but there are over 11,000 transportation construction companies who would be adversely impacted by a shutdown on March 31st. So in addition to the 1.8 million workers who would be laid off, 11,000 transportation construction companies many of them would have to shut their doors. And that's a very modest number. And I'll show you a picture that I often show about the construction workers. Mr. President, I'm sure you're a Super Bowl fan. We all are. And this is a picture of a stadium at the Super Bowl. Every seat there, about 100,000 seats are filled. If every one of these seats were filled with an unemployed construction worker, Mr. President, you can close your eyes and envision 14 more of these stadiums filled with unemployed construction workers. That's where we are today. You would have to envision another 25 or 30 of those. We cannot afford to go down this road. So today, let's vote aye for cloture. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the strong support for this cloture vote. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, this is today's letter? Yesterday. We received this yesterday. The Chamber of Commerce strongly supports this important legislation. Passing surface transportation reauthorization legislation is a specific action Congress and the administration can take right now to support job growth and economic productivity without adding to the deficit. Because, as you know, this bill is 100% paid for. We also have a history-making group of organizations supporting this, and we'll give you a sense of that as well. We have a coalition of 1,075 organizations from all 50 states, and they sent us a letter on January 25th, 2012, and they said, in 2011, political leaders, Republican, Democratic, House, Senate, and the administration stated that a multi-year surface transportation bill is important for job creation and economic recovery. We urge you to follow words with action. I want to repeat that. We urge you to follow words with action. Make transportation job number one, and move immediately in the House and Senate to invest in the roads, the bridges, and transit systems that are the backbone of the U.S. economy, its businesses, large and small, and communities of all sizes. Now, they didn't ask us to take up Keystone Pipeline. They didn't ask us to take up repealing clean air laws. They didn't ask us to take up drilling off the coast. They didn't ask us to take up contraception. They didn't. They asked us to take up this transportation bill. And I am saying to colleagues, please, you've had 3 weeks to discuss contraception. We disposed of it. We voted. It's okay. It's tabled. Let's move on. There are other days we can talk about that, but not when we're dealing with building the highways and bridges. You know, Mr. President, the state of our highways and our transportation system is just not what it should be. 70,000 bridges are deficient. Bridges are falling down. We had Senator Inhofe is eloquent on the point about a woman taking a walk and having a piece of a bridge fall on her and she died. We've seen what happened in Minnesota when bridges start to fall into disrepair. You know, when I was growing up, my parents always taught me, be responsible, be responsible. And I'm not always living up to their expectations, but I try. And if somebody tells me, there's a problem over here, I try to fix it. And when I hear that 70,000 bridges are in trouble and they're deficient and 50% of our roads are not up to standard, I now know this information. If I was ignorant and I didn't know it, that would be one thing. I now know it. How can I turn my back on this bill? I know how many unemployed construction workers there are. How can I turn my back on them? I know how many businesses, whether it's gravel companies or cement companies or general contractors, they all are begging us to do this. These are Republican-leaning groups along with Labor Democratic-leaning groups. Bridges are not partisan. Roads are not partisan. Well, this is our moment. We can vote yes on cloture. What does that mean? It means we're not going to debate these very difficult, inflammatory amendments, but we're going to stick to the highway bill, stick to the transportation bill. And this vote is a very important vote for folks, because I think if you don't vote to move to the bill and you vote to prolong this debate, you have to answer to your folks back home and tell them why you're playing Russian roulette with the highway bill. Because on March 31st, it all stops. And, Mr. President, it is true in the past we've had extensions. This is different than usual because the trust fund is short of funds. So you can't just extend. If you just extend, there's a price to be paid. Because the trust fund doesn't have the funds it needs, which is repaired in this bill, you'd have an immediate cut of a third right there, 500,000 jobs if you just did an extension. No, we don't want that. We want a bill that is a reform bill that takes this from 90 programs to 30, that uses leveraging in a smart way, that is totally bipartisan. Now, do we have any other charts that I wanted to show at this point, or we've done that? So I will sum up. We've got, you know, in a few minutes we'll be voting, and just say to my friends again, you have all the facts at your hands. If you don't know what your state job loss would be if we fail to act, we have that. We'll give it to you. But there is no way, you know, you can run away from what you know. Now, we voted 85 votes to proceed to this bill. That was a long time ago. It seems like ages ago. And we can't get off dead center because people are offering unrelated amendments. So my hope is we'll get to 60. My hope is we can, in short order, get this bill done, send a message of hope to the people. Now, I heard just now that Speaker Boehner has said that he's very interested in the Senate bill and that he's going to take a look at the Senate bill, because at this point they haven't been able to get a bill that they feel has a chance. This bill, I would reiterate for America, is bipartisan. The most bipartisan bill I've ever seen around here. And it unites people who fight and argue on everything else. When Inhofe and Boxer agree on something, you know that's a real good compromise, and we do agree. When Vitter and Baucus come in and they agree with the same thing that Inhofe and Boxer have agreed to, it's a good day around here. And that's what we have before us. So I call on colleagues to vote aye on the cloture vote, and let's get on with this, and let's spare the people the suffering the untold suffering that will come if we have to lay off 1.8 million workers and hurt more than 11,000 businesses. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I would yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Mr. President, I ask that the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I would ask unanimous consent that these quorum calls be charged to both sides equally.
Without objection.
Thank you. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
The underlying business in the Senate is the two-year, $109 billion surface transportation bill. A procedural vote coming up at noon, a cloture vote on the substitute amendment offered by the majority leader. Congressional Quarterly says this substitute amendment combines provisions from 4 committees and incorporates the text of 37 germane amendments on which negotiators have already agreed. That vote coming up at noon. And the House will recess for party lunches at 12:30. At 1:15, we will bring you the President's News Conference, the first one of the year for President Obama. We open up our Facebook page to ask you what you would ask the President. Facebook.com/C-SPAN, the question you would ask the President, and a couple of them. President Obama, why do you follow the same failed free trade policies of the previous administration? So what are your thoughts? Go to Facebook.com/C-SPAN and post your question. Seeing a number of tweets from members on the screen. A reminder at twitter.com/cspan. You can select the list of members and reporters who cover Capitol Hill. One of those is Chat Program with Fox, who tweets that Steny Hoyer said this morning on the highway bill, "I think it's likely we will do a temporary extension. The Republicans don't want to have another FAA." That from Chat Program of Fox, talking about the House dealing with transportation. They took it up a couple of weeks ago, a 5-year version of the bill, but haven't moved forward on that yet. Here in the Senate, they will move forward, or at least take a vote on moving forward, a procedural vote coming up at noon Eastern. And that's here in the U.S. Senate. Then they'll gavel out at 12:30 Eastern for their regular weekly party caucus lunches. During that time, the President will hold a news conference. While the Senate is out at 1:15, we'll have that live here on C-SPAN, and we have opened up our Facebook page to ask you what kind of question you'd ask the President. Angel Ennis would ask, why do you think our country is so divided? She also asked, what are your thoughts on responsible and ethical journalism? Mark Nussbaum posts, President Obama, why do you need to raise $1 billion for your re-election campaign? Post your thoughts and your comments and questions for President Obama. Over 115 responses so far. That's at facebook.com/cspan.
Thank you.